Hey everyone, welcome to Fast Forward, the podcast about real conversations, not highlight reels. We go beyond tactics and talk about how people behind the businesses, how they think, what drives them, how they adapt, and how they build. This is a space for honest stories from real founders. And today I'm joined with James Kaatz, the co founder and CEO of Illumination Marketing. James, how are you?
Fantastic. You even got my name right. I'm flattered.
I won't take too much credit for that, although I do
No,
speak some
I
German.
probably more than me, even though my last name's German. But I appreciate you inviting me on today.
Great. It's great to have you. Um, you've built an agency in one of the most competitive verticals out there. What part of your early life or personality pushed you towards entrepreneurship and rather than staying on the traditional career path?
Oh my gosh, that is such a loaded question. I could speak for hours about this one question. So, so I'll give you like the really quick backstory, right? So
Sure.
I started off in the entertainment industry, where I was in that industry for about 8 years, and it taught me a lot of things about timing and TV and things of that nature. I needed a different change because of the path I was going on. So I went to college. I graduated with a degree in radio and television, where I quickly moved to Houston after that, and I got a job working at an ad agency here as a media buyer for Fortune 500 companies. Some of my clients include AT&T, SodaStream, Arby's, Sleep Number, FanDuel. We relaunched Zest in Canada. So a lot of really cool projects.
Nice.
Needed a different challenge. So I went over to a marketing agency that was based in the automotive vertical, where I quickly got promoted into management, and I helped to take my section of the company from losing 400,000 a year to making just under 2 million in 2 years. And that's really where I found my love of marketing, working at that agency. Our average dealership would grow 6.5% market share in the first 6 months, and probably the most competitive space there is in a local market. I'm like, oh my gosh, all of this stuff actually works and we can influence people. I don't know what you know about automotive, but it's a lot like sports in that everyone's job is on the line every single month. And so
Mm,
if the first 7 days of the month start poorly, you'll have dealers, especially when you're in management, call you up, curse you out, say unkind things about you, your character, your family. And it was no longer an environment that was conducive to personal or professional growth
wow.
for me. So I switched industries. Went over and became a marketing executive in the healthcare industry for a small company. And it was tremendous. We redid their whole marketing strategy from the ground up. That's redoing their website, their videography, their SEO, their everything, right? Their marketing
Hmm.
materials. And it was really, really successful. And we ended up growing that company 1.3 million more in first year contracts. And they signed about 3-year contracts en route to their first $20 million a year in company history. So it was just further proving that everything that we were doing was working. So that's the really quick backstory of the professional side of things. So how did we get into starting our own agency? So I'm also the father of an autistic child, and she's an autistic adult now, but at the time she's about 10 years old. And being autistic, there's only 3 places in the entire world that she would ever go eat. And one of those places was called the Houston Texans Grill. And it was fantastic. It had everything that you could possibly want. It had the name, it had a great location, it had great food, great bar, great ambiance. The staff was great, everything, right? So one day we decide to take her to eat after we pick her up from school, and she runs up. It's on the second floor. So she runs up to the door, and my wife and I aren't about to run. We're getting older, but so she runs up to the door, she tries to jiggle the handle, and it's locked, right? And so eventually my wife and I make our way up there, and there's just a sign on the door that says, "Thank you for the last 5 years. We've gone out of business." And my daughter, being about 10 and autistic at the time, didn't understand. She's like, "What happens? I want to go in there. I want to eat. I'm hungry. Let's go in there." And we're like, we can't. So we had to explain to an autistic 10-year-old the fundamentals of capitalism and free market economies at a very young age, right? So we go down the street, we go to another place that she'll eat. And my wife and I start talking, and we're like, so what made this company go out of business? They had everything that they could possibly want. And then we figured out that the one thing that held them back was their marketing. They had no presence anywhere other than
Mm,
walk by traffic, foot traffic. And so my wife and I started talking and realized we have the skills that could help these companies and these small businesses fulfill their dreams. And, that's when the light bulb went on and Illumination Marketing was born. And that was about 7, 8 years ago, because we just had our
yeah.
company birthday last week. 8 years ago. And since that point, we've helped everything from upstarts with people with 0 clients all the way to the big guys like GE Healthcare, Kelsey Siebel, Group One Automotive, Allied Power Group, and everything in between. And that's really how we started our agency.
That's really cool. And it's based off of the idea of helping people and realizing there's a need for what you can provide.
Absolutely. And then it's transitioned through the years, right? So when we started, we're like, we only want to help restaurants to get more customers and walk in the door. And we did that really, really successfully. We helped a couple of really big chains here in Houston grow their chains. So that was really neat. But as time goes on, everything transitions. The pandemic hit
Mhm.
and we had over 50% of our revenue tied up in helping restaurants. And I don't know if you remember
Oh,
the
man.
pandemic like it was yesterday, but
Man.
they shut down all restaurants, right?
Mhm.
They couldn't do foot traffic anymore, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, how are we paying
Well,
our bills next month?"
the
Yeah.
to-go version of the restaurant was the
So
only
that's
thing
how
they
we
had.
did. Yeah, we pivoted and we did videos, and luckily we stayed on, but, that was a scary, scary month, that first month where they shut
I'm
everything
sure.
down, and because 'cause we're like, "Oh my gosh, how are we gonna pay our bills too?" So,
Right.
we decided to make a shift right
Mm.
after that, and then in about 2021, 2022, somewhere right in there, we decided to shift our company focus from restaurant social media focus more over to the SEO side of things. Just because it's easier to justify for us the intent based marketing versus the interruption based marketing. And we've
Mhm.
seen a whole lot more success with it. I'd rather be the solution that someone finds when they're looking for the solution versus trying to convince people they actually need the solution. So at about 2022, we switched over to doing more SEO. And today it counts for about 66% of our revenue.
That's awesome. And now you're cross-industry in terms of CEO marketing, not just restaurants, of course.
Yeah, that's true. So we do everything from industrial, we do industrial turbine repair, all the way to local business to consumer like hair salons and everything in between. So we help a
Mhm.
whole lot of companies do a whole lot of things. The good news is SEO principles don't change. It's just the
Right.
information that changes. So if you have a really good contact or someone who's knowledgeable at a company, you don't have to be an expert in industrial turbine repair as long as they can guide you in the right direction.
Right. And how did you move from helping restaurants into the SEO space? Like, did you become an expert yourself, or did you find talent? How did you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I worked at the marketing agency that was based in the automotive space, my job was basically the manager of the marketing managers. So we grew our team from a team of 4 people who each had about 10 people working under them at any given time. And so one of those marketing strategies that we'd often use to help dealerships is to grow the SEO space. And so, but I wasn't a direct manager or supervisor or anything like that over
Right.
SEO. We were the marketing managers. One day but we were like the A team because we had all of these services that we oversaw. So it's just different power levers that
Mm.
we could pull, right? And so one day we had this really big account out of Dallas, a little bit outside of Dallas, but
Outside of Dallas,
um,
alright.
yeah, right on, man. So they called us up, and I talked to him because I was the person in charge. Right? And he's like, "This just isn't working. We want to cancel it. We're paying all this money for SEO, and we're not even on page one, and we don't have that much competition." I'm like, "Okay, dude, give me 24 hours. Just let me look into this before we make any rash decisions. I'll come back to you literally tomorrow with what I found and what our plan is going forward. And if it doesn't make sense, you can cancel, no problems asked, right? Or at least you can go
Sure.
argue with the lawyers about canceling. That's not my spot, but I would give you my blessing to cancel it." And so I did that and I looked into it, and it turns out the SEO just wasn't working because our team at the time hadn't put keywords into the title. They hadn't put keywords
Mm.
into the URL. They haven't used it semantically throughout the page. And this was around like 2015, 2016. So this is before um, entity SEO even really became a thing. It was still keyword stuffing back then, right? So I'm like, okay, so I go back to him the next day. I'm like, this is what I found. This is what I think we can do. Can you give us a week to see if this will work? Not knowing SEO as well as I should have at that point, but knowing how kind of it worked. I'm like, give us a week to see if we can do this. And luckily he'd been indexed. His site had been around forever. So he's like, okay, try it. We'll see by the end of the month and we'll make a decision there. I'm like, perfect. So we went back to the team. They put all that into place. Lo and behold, it worked. He was up at page one for all of his key terms just because we put the key term into the title of every single page, right? It was that
Mhm.
easy back, 15
Right,
years
right, right, right.
years ago.
Straightforward.
And so I'm like, aha, this works. It can be a thing. And so that's really the first foray into SEO.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
cool how you're just able to kind of spitball almost and just figure out your future career and business is through experiments. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the best way to learn sometimes.
Yeah, and knowledge is like a compounding effect. If you do it, you don't lose it, right? Well,
Yeah,
to an extent. Like if you don't practice it, you'll lose it, but
of
you don't
course.
lose it. It's a compounding effect. And so it's knowing that it worked and knowing that it got found, and then us going to help with social media, which back in 2017, 2018 was much more powerful than it is now. It's before even Cambridge Analytica scandal and all that stuff came around. I don't know if you remember that far back, but
Mhm.
it was so easy to do back in 2017, 2018. And then it changed when TikTok came around and all of that. And so it transitioned all to a video platform. So things got a little more expensive to do. And then it
Mm.
just got less effective because there was so much video out there. So we're like, oh, what do we do? Why don't we become the answer for people who are looking to answer the questions? Oh, that's SEO. Well, I have all this experience doing this. And so it's that compounding knowledge of thing on top of thing on top of thing that just really helped to build it.
Yeah, I can only imagine since 2017, in the past 2, 3 years, so much has changed for you, as digital marketing. What would you say trend-wise is the direction of the marketing of digital marketing, and how have things changed since the implementation of, artificial intelligence? The main question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's moving more. So I think there's a couple of different things at play. Where we're at
Sure.
initially, it's people are trying to experiment more with AI, and AI is becoming more of a thing, but AI is just a tool. So if you don't know how the principles work, as an example with SEO, it will only help you do bad SEO faster if you don't
Mm,
have the principles in place. So I think it's going to differentiate. We're moving to a world of who can prompt better, not who knows everything better. But you have to
mhm.
have the knowledge of how to prompt it in order to get it to prompt the right way, because garbage in, garbage out. So that's a big thing. Where we're moving as far as marketing goes in the industry, I think video is continuing to become a much bigger thing. And I think authentic video is going to be huge, right? Because we have all this AI video coming out now, and people can't tell if it's real or if it's fake.
Right.
And so videos like this are going to be massive. And the number one thing that's cited right now within ChatGPT and Google Gemini is YouTube, right? So it's these
Mhm.
types of realistic videos that are going to continue to get more of a hold. And so I think video strategies have to become such a massive part of business expansion going forward, just in order to buy the credibility that the transformed technologies are and the large language models are even looking for.
So, what do you think about this video in particular? Like, what about it is something that's going to become the new trend or the new wave of marketing, or not the new, but the is it more like it has like a more foundational, like it has something it's more authentic? Is that what you're going towards? Like, how do you mean like this? Like, for example, a podcast is more of a strategy.
Yeah, so it's two humans interacting as humans would act. And so as we get more and more into AI, there's going to be more and more AI content, and it's going to be harder and harder to filter through, right? And that's the whole dead internet theory that's coming. I don't know if you've ever looked into
Yeah,
it,
I
but
have seen that.
yeah. So there's going to be so much AI content that it's just going to be spinning AI content. So the more authentic insights that people have, the more trusted they'll be. And
Mhm.
so that's why Reddit is getting pulled from. That's why Quora is getting pulled from, even though there's ways to manipulate that as well. It's more authentic from the voice of a person. And video is a lot harder to fake. Granted, we're getting much better at that and
Yeah.
easier to go. But still, the general population doesn't know how to fake video. They just know how to shoot one on their phone and put it up. So I think
Mhm.
that authenticity is going to pull in, and as far as trust goes, which is why it's going to continue to get cited more and more and more.
Okay, so and I also think the back and forth of human to human is like you said, is going to be pivotal as we move forward, because we are going to rely on these tools more and more, but it should put us in a space that makes us more separated, because as we've done in society has gone kind of a different direction. We are as connected as we've ever been, and at the same time we are disconnected. We are not working through things together at all. Everyone's kind of fighting for themselves. So I also think that with AI, we're now moving into a new era of human contact, and these types of things are important for that reason too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a perfect example, right? What you just said. So I have a daughter, she's 21 years old now. She still doesn't drive. She's learning to drive. But we're like, why did she take so long to drive? Because it's not the autism thing. There's plenty of autistic people who drive. And so we were talking about it, me and my wife, and we're like, we think it's because we just grew up in such a different era. We grew
Mhm.
up before Facebook and social media. We grew up that if you wanted to be social, you had to get in your car and drive and go see friends.
So
right?
true.
And my daughter who's grown up in that era, she was born in 2004, which is, when Facebook came around. I was in college, and I remember I was one of the first like 5 colleges to get Facebook at Stephen F. Austin State, which is weird that they chose SFA of all
Did
places,
they
but it was
really?
one of yeah, it was. It was one of the first 10 that they were testing. And so all my friends
Harvard,
got in.
Yale, Princeton, SFA.
Yeah, weird, right?
That's awesome,
So
man.
it got there pretty quickly, and so we got there, and so since that point, if my daughter wants to be social, she just gets on a computer and does it. But I think the generation behind her that's coming up is going to really crave that human interaction again, right? I think we're gonna go in cycles because they've always had technology, so now they're gonna want something new, which is craving the human interaction. At least just a theory. We'll see how it plays out.
I tend to agree. Most of my guests have actually hinted at that, even if they're in the AI space or something really technical and digital. They're finding that these networking events or anything that's in person is far more beneficial, not just for their business, but just for their own self,
Mhm.
healing. Or it's important for us to be a community. We are humans. We are not digital. As much as we like to think at times,
Yeah. Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
biological creatures.
Yeah, totally. And part of, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that social interaction, I believe, is still in there. I haven't
Right.
looked at it in a while. I shouldn't be quoting things I haven't looked at in a minute.
That's great though. I mean, it's so important and it's something that we shouldn't move on. We shouldn't get away from because once that starts happening, we really lose track of things and our biological beings are only can adapt so quickly and we don't react fast enough to the exponential growth of all things digital. So it's important that we realize that we're in this together.
Mhm. And that's too with the growth of digital, how do you stand out in a digital world when everything's the same, right? That's the question. And personality, brand becomes important. Trust is more important than ever. So, and I believe it's that human interaction to go, hey, I'm a real person. This wasn't written by AI. This is me with 20 years of experience knowing how to do this. And this is why I want to help you be able to do it is going to buy that trust and credibility. Look at Alex Ramosi. It's like the perfect example in 5 years what he's done to grow a brand. And all it is him being a human and talking about his experience over and over and over and over again. I think that's really the blueprint for anybody and any business going forward.
Yeah. It's personal brand is really important now more than ever. And the further we get into the tools, the more you need to be aware of your identity. I think that we're becoming professional proofreaders in a sense. Like whatever you
Mhm.
put out there is your responsibility. And if you're not willing to put in the time and you're just going to prompt something to give you an output and just send it out to the world, that's on you.
Yeah.
It's your identity you're sacrificing.
Yeah, and here's the thing about AI too. It uses something called heuristics, which is if it doesn't know, it just makes it up. It's just a fancy
Yes.
term for
Yes, of
lying,
course. I noticed that for
right?
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's going to continue to do that. So if it continues to put this out and then it becomes the Bible and then AI is just quoting the heuristics that it made up to just fill in the space anyway, we become in this giant web of misinformation. And so I think again, the authenticity is so important in that it's built credibility through experience, not through going, hey, I put this into Chat GPT or Claude or Perplexity and it all came out.
For sure. And whatever we put in is what we get out. Like you said, garbage in, garbage out. I mean, there's only one way to get the information that's needed and is relevant, and that's if you understand what you're inputting. You can't expect it's not magic. It
Hmm.
sometimes it feels like it is, but it's not. It's just regurgitating information that it has already in its system. And if you give it something that it can't vet or do research on itself, then you're really going to get something that's heuristics. Is that what you
Hmm.
called it?
Yeah, heuristics.
And yeah, I've noticed that for sure. Even with this, if I talking to a guest and I can't find much information, then I ask it and it gives me something that looks real, but then I'm like, wait, this is not actually about the person at all. It's just something that's close to maybe who it may be.
Yeah, it
So you
just
gotta
makes it
you
up to look smart. And we all
it
trust it.
looks
And
I was
that's
like,
the
"Oh, that's
scary
great."
part.
I know.
So
Because it
that,
looks
that's
good.
just that's the scary part. But it's such an interesting world that we live in right now, for sure.
Yeah, no question. So where do you see AI like becoming the new baseline for agencies like yours? Do you think I mean, of course, human strategy has the edge, but in terms of utilization, what is like the baseline?
So it It helps you do it's just a tool. So it's like when Microsoft Word came out, right? They used to type on the typewriter. Now they can type on Microsoft Word and it goes significantly quicker because you don't have to white out mistakes and things like that. It's a tool that transformed the world. And that's where we're at now is speed and efficiency. That being said, you still have to have the principles in place in order to do it. As an example, we use AI every single day. I wouldn't trust a marketing agency at this point that didn't
Yeah,
use
right.
AI,
That's
right?
the funny part. Yeah.
Right. And so you have to use AI, and it's an incredible tool if you do it right. So, as an example, if we're trying to write a blog structure, we'll use different principles like the MACE framework. Give me the mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive framework using at least 20 H2 headings for this topic. And then it will pop out 20 H2 headings and then you can
Mm.
expand on it, right? And so, but if you just prompt it of, hey, I need an outline for this keyword, it's going to give you trash. So the more specific you are putting in, the better you get out. And then, as you said, we proofread it. We make adjustments based on does this make sense? Human intervention is what I call it. And then we can move on to writing the article. And sometimes we'll put the first draft. Well, pretty much every time now we put the first draft through just because it doesn't make sense to have humans take a full day to write articles anymore.
No.
But our prompt is still, 5,000 words to try and put out a 1,500 word article. And that we have to define our writing style. We have to define who we're writing it for. We have to define our perplexity and our burstiness in our writing.
Mm.
We have to define who we're, what grade level that we're trying to write on a Fleisch reading scale. There's all these different factors that we go in that we have to try to define before we even get the first draft of the article that we've already done. So it's still a long process. This thing isn't done immediately. It takes hours to do an article still if we're doing it right. But the good news is since we don't just put it through the same spin machine, we rank much quicker for every single article that we ever do because there's depth to it, right? It's
Mm.
not just on the surface level of this is what we do and this is what everyone else has done. It's okay, you covered 5 topics, I covered 10 topics or 15 topics in depth on the same subject, and it just makes sense. So it's using the tools in the right way with the principles that have worked since we've been doing marketing. And I think that's still the path forward. They'll get better and better and better. There will be AI tools that help to define it better and better and better, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, as of now.
Yeah.
So your prompt is almost as detailed as the article. Actually, it's more detailed than the article itself
Yeah, it is.
because you're not only telling it what the topic is, you're also training it or telling it how you think and how it needs to come out and about the industry. There's a lot of deep information that it's not going to know unless you tell it.
Right. And it's things like don't use what is it? Adjunctive adverbs, things like that. Moreover, things like that, which I hate. They're telltale AI signs,
Oh,
right?
there's more now. I know the
Oh, they're
dashes. I know the dashes.
yeah. They're terrible, right? And so you have to train it to define it out of it before it even starts trying to do it. And then the best way you can do it is still it's section by section. So you can't have it write a whole article. You go, write me this first H2 section and make sure that it follows this prompt. Confirm that it follows this prompt, things like that. So it's constantly revising.
Wow.
So there's probably 20 generations before we even get the first draft done
Wow.
just to get it done. But that's
So
again, that's why we're successful. That's why we've
yeah.
made multiple millions of dollars at our agency, and we've helped to drive over $250 million in revenue in the last 5 years. It's through the specificity of those
Yeah.
tools.
The depth of information that you were putting into each part of the SEO and the articles prior to AI, and now you're really getting the most out of every article because you knew how to prior to AI, essentially.
Right. And you can't use it to just spin things because it looks at velocity of content. So if you don't do anything for 5 years and all of a sudden you put out 60 pages in a week, it's gonna flag you. It's smarter
Mhm.
than you realize, right?
Consistency,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's making sure that you do things right and well where it makes sense and that you're not clearly AI.
right. That's fascinating, honestly, it's really cool. Okay, so service businesses are emotional businesses, clients, people, expectations, outcomes. What's been the hardest human challenge in your journey, and how did you learn to handle it as a leader?
So can you help define that a little bit more? Human challenges
Like
and
like integrity, transparency, long-term partnerships,
oh,
anything like that.
totally. So we're very selective of who we work with. We understand that there's a capacity level that we'll hit, and I don't want to outsell capacity because then our standards just drop. And I'm unwilling to do that. I'd rather have a slow, steady growth, just
For sure.
personally. And that and our goals aren't to be a next billion-dollar business. It's just that's not what we want to do. Too many people, too many problems, right?
No
But
question.
that being said, so being so selective in our clientele has led to some issues. And I'll give you a perfect example. It was a year and a half, 2 years ago. We had an attorney that we were talking to, and it was a big money client. And what he did was criminal defense. He was a criminal defense attorney. And so we were talking about exchanging big money. And then he goes, when I went and met with him after the first couple of phone calls, because we do that before we meet with people in person. So I went and met with him. And he goes, what I really do is sexual assault defense. And he goes, sometimes I take people's houses, their payment form and things like that. And I'm like, interesting. So I'm like,
Hmm.
let's walk through this one, right? So in the best case scenario, we do really, really well. And this guy was a very good attorney, by the way, very charismatic, very good at what he did. And so best case scenario, we help bring this guy a bunch of cases of people who've sexually assaulted a child, and then he gets them off so they don't have to go to prison. How can I live with myself the next day? And so we turned down a multi 5-figure deal because morals and ethics didn't align with what he did as a service provider. So I can only help so many people, and I can only help, and so I only want to help who I want to help. And that's not an industry that I wanted to help. And so that's just an example of the moral crossroads that sometimes we reach. There's several of them throughout everything, but that's one that stands out as a shining example. We turned that one down.
Yeah, it's can't imagine trying to turn that type of opportunity down, but I imagine it benefited you long term. And just for yourself, morals are important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool. If we fast forward 3 to 5 years, what does illumination marketing look like to you? Does a future favor big agencies or niche specialists or something new entirely?
Both. So there's going to be people
Everything
who only
fits.
want to work with big agencies. But the problem when you work with a big agency is if you're a smaller account, you get pushed down to a junior executive who just came out of college, who has no experience and doesn't really know
It's so
anything.
true.
We ran into this with the marketing agency in the automotive all the time. We would hire, and it was a high turn business because they wouldn't pay them a whole lot. So they needed their 2 years experience and they would bounce. And so we were constantly bringing in fresh out of college kids who would then not understand the principles. And then when they finally understood the principles, because it takes time to learn, they'd
Sure.
bounce. And so that's the problem of working with a big agency. Problem with working with a small agency is that there's capacity issues. Or
Right.
if someone, if it's a single person agency and that person gets sick and ends up in the hospital because they got in a car wreck, then all of a sudden you have no one to help you do your marketing and everything falls apart. So there's benefits to both, and that at bigger agencies you have somebody, but it's not necessarily great. On the smaller agencies, you might find that diamond in the rough who's amazing, but there might be capacity issues, especially as they start to grow, because how do you transfer that knowledge from the one person agency down? So there's
No
room for
question.
both of them. Where we're going, that's the million-dollar question, man. Could you have predicted 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that we would be able to have a video of a person that you couldn't tell was fake with using their voice that you couldn't tell they never said those words and putting it into a sales copy that is more fluid than anything a human has ever said but seems natural? Could you have predicted that 3 years ago? Could you predict
Not a
that
chance.
there are bots that can call you and have a human-esque
That's some wild
conversation and
stuff.
sell you on something 3 years ago? So our technology is moving so quickly, I don't think anybody knows where it's gonna be in 3 years. So as far as where our agency goes, we
Yeah.
want to continue to refine our messaging, to put that human touch on everything, to make sure that people understand what we stand for and how we can help, and then that we don't oversell our capacity, which could also be a problem. So it's making sure that we hit our revenue goals, which we have modest revenue goals. We want to grow 30% a year and keep churn below 5%. If we do that, we're making millions, and we can sell our
Yeah.
agency maybe in 5 years if our SOPs are super tight for 2, 3, 4 multiple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same variable we've talked about. Maintaining human element, the human touch to anything and everything is pivotal, and the future is impossible to predict at this point. So staying in your lane and trusting your identity, trusting what you've built is the best method to take.
Yeah. People think the same. Like it's wired into humans how we process information, and it's been that way since mankind was mankind.
Sure.
And so, as long as we continue to put those building blocks in place, I think no matter what tactic we use, it's not going to change. So, it's building that trust and making sure that people can bring their guard down because when their cortisol is going, they can't make a good decision.
Mm.
So, it's making sure that we call out problems. So here's my big marketing spiel in a
Yeah.
nutshell, right?
Let's
The
hear it.
best marketing solves a very specific problem for a very specific person. And it's you being able to articulate that problem better than the prospect themselves, which earns the trust. And so I think it's just that theory on steroids that's going to continue to build the marketing industry.
Yeah, no question. It's about trust. Everything is about trust
Mhm.
and helping people believe that, even if it's a somewhat of a significant investment into marketing, what they're doing is actually presenting, growing their brand in a way that they couldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's the thing too for business owners, like they hire people to help them solve problems. Like that's why every business is a business is because it solves a
Exactly.
problem.
Right.
And so I don't think marketing is going away anytime soon. And I think it's going to get harder and harder to do marketing because there's so much out there. And so you have to really know what you're doing to cut through the noise. So I think a really good marketing agency is going to be worth its weight in gold in 5 years versus, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold now, right?
Yeah,
But
it is.
I think it'll be more selective as we go forward because there will be so many more people who think they can do it because of all these AI tools. And there's
Exactly.
got to be a way to stand out from everybody who's doing the same thing.
Exactly. It's gonna be the intersection of all of the different possibilities that you have in marketing and finding that sweet spot.
Yeah. And
James, go ahead.
I was going to say, and exploiting it and keep doing it and keep innovating and keep trying. And like I said, who knows where technology is going to be? Maybe we're in holograms or whatever and doing virtual hologram sales calls in 5 years. How cool would that be?
It'd be amazing. I've been waiting for that since Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah,
come on,
exactly.
where's the hologram?
But then you have holograms, but then how many people are like, "Can you just come by my office?"
Yeah, well, then teleportation was really what we need.
We're getting there, right? They just
That's what I
teleported a
want.
sheep.
I hate flying. Did we
Yeah,
actually?
I think so. I need
Living?
to find the article. I'll see if I can find it and send it to
I
you
need
after
to
the
read
call.
that.
Yeah, I think they
Sounds
teleported a
fascinating.
sheep like 2 feet or something like that.
Really? That's if I had to pick a superpower, it's teleportation for sure.
Right on.
James, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Did you have any uh, plugs for where people can find you and anything social media wise that you would like to list off?
Yeah, totally. So if you are a service-based business making $1 to $10 million a year plus, and you really want to grow your company and you're not exactly sure how to do it, or here's the other big one, right? You've been sold a bill of goods from people who didn't deliver because that's 99% of the work we do is going and cleaning back up behind others. And you just want to see what's possible. By all means, reach out to us and we'll have a conversation about it. No obligation necessary. You can find us at www.marketingillumination.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can really find us anywhere you want to, but the best way to get a hold of us would be going through our website, www.marketingillumination.com.
Awesome. Been a pleasure, James.
It's
Really
my
been
pleasure.
good getting to know you and hear about your business and learn about your story a little more. So thanks for coming on, and
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff.
we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Stay tuned for more episodes from the Fast Forward podcast every Friday.